Hello friends, welcome to Blue Swan Studio and to the Rainbow Medicine. Krista Goyya is with you. Today is very important topic and very dear to my heart. It's about infinity. Infinity. In Sikh religion, Sikhs, they call themselves student of infinity. I really loved that when I heard that first time in 2003. That was the beginning of a Kundalini yoga for me, and beginning reciting this poem that I really love, that is called Japji. In translation, it means song of the soul, song of my soul. So maybe this talk will be a little bit influenced by it, because after all, I spent with it like 10,000 hours, reading it in 18 years. And Guru Nanak, who lived in 16th century, he became one of my biggest teachers out of this timeline. Because reading that poem, that I would always read it like 3 times. One time in Gurmukhi, Hek Onkar Satnam Kartapurk Nirbau Nirver Akale Murat Ajuni Seibang Gur Prasad Jap and such. And then I would read the whole English translation of it, and interestingly, it seems like English has so many more words because it would take quite a long time. And then I would conclude with the third reading the whole poem again. It's a 40 stanzas, and I would read it in Gurmukhi again, dialect of Indian language in India. Interestingly, right now there is a movie about Guru Nanak. Where do you find it on YouTube? I will put it in the comments. Also, one time, long time ago, I was listening to Alan Watts. And that was the beginning of YouTube, and the YouTube wasn't like so rich with all kind of information, like totally becoming the visual and auditory encyclopedia for humanity. At that time, Alan Watts was listened to a lot, and I think I was searching about some question with God, and I found his video and I was listening to it. And with my deep surprise, I heard as Alan Watts was talking about my teacher, Guru Nanak. He was saying there was this saint in a long time ago in India. And when describing God, he was describing like counting on different kind of qualities of God. And he went on and on saying, God is this and God is that. But he always would conclude saying, and Nanak says that God is beyond and beyond. So this word beyond, yonder and beyond, infinity. We could talk about this huge infinity, or we could just talk about the practical significance of looking at whatever you are looking at from a bigger perspective. Whether it's pain in the body, whether it's a life situation that you are struggling with, or it's a relationship situation where you see yourself and your partner. But what if, or like parent and child, yourself and your child, what if you could actually take a step back and look from a bigger perspective, and then again take step back and look at even from a bigger perspective, and keep expanding. So expanding with my mind was a huge passion of mine. In psychotypes, it's called paranoial. Para is like taking everything that is in. And I think the word noia actually has also this quality of being new. When things keep renewing, when to all that is, you can find a new perspective to look at the same thing in. Also, it's been the very beginning of YouTube when I saw this video. I think it was some sort of a quantum mathematician, and in a conversation, dialogue with another scientist, and this guy was giving his perspective about how the whole picture of the many universes may look. And he was giving this picture of 8, as I drew right here. 8, like one universe, infinity sign on the side of it, like number 8 on the side, infinity side. And he was saying, like, if this 1/8 is a picture of the universe, then there could be another universe, kind of like made like a bee, like the bees, a honeycomb, how it's built, like a cell over the cell, over the cell, over the cell. And he was saying, like, it's like lots of 8s build over each other. And so it goes to infinity. So my question to you, when we take this number 8, can you see this 8 in our body? Can you see that number 8 like laying on its back, or I mean on its side? And that would kind of like show us something about our body that is infinite. Okay, I'm giving you just a minute to think about it. Eyes, yeah? Our eyes. Wouldn't you say like it's a number 8? And understanding that, for example, from this eye, the information, the visual information actually is being worked on this side of the brain, and this eye opposite. And then the whole thing, the eyes here, but at the same time occipital here, where the visual information gets processed, yeah? So it's kind of like, the 8 here. And then there is also kind of like 8 going to the back of your head. And in the last video, I was talking about these pair organs in our body, like brain and brain, and then lung and lung, and kidney. And since, like brain and brain, they always communicate with each other. Like, in trauma situations, if one part of the brain got injured, because it was the old understanding that, like, one side of the brain is responsible totally like for one things and the other side for different things. Since the brain research developed so much now, we know that even if like one part of the brain gets injured, those functions actually brain somewhere else picks up on those functions. It's called brain neuroplasticity. Yeah, I was sharing with you this picture of the brain connected to the spinal cord, and here I draw a picture like a brain and spinal cord that goes all the way down to almost your coccyx, maybe coccyx too, I would say. And if you open this brain, you could probably kind of like feel this 8 too. And brain always in a condition that it's actually breathing. It's breathing like this, like with the inhale, exhale, it has its own rhythm, yeah? And it also is like, as this breathing, it's also connected to the spinal brain. And like when the brain, both sides open up like this, spinal brain gets a little shorter. When they exhale, spinal brain gets a little longer, yeah? And it's called cranial sacral rhythm. It's always like in rhythm. So, what am I saying is, you see, we kind of have this infinity inside our body. Not even just like our mind potential, like to stretch to the idea of embracing what is absolute. We possibly cannot embrace completely what is absolute, because then we would have to explode and become God. But we can infinitely move toward understanding that absolute with our mind. But even in the physical reality, we have things inside our body that gives us this notion of infinity. One of my first teachers in America was Professor Zeyrose Park. One time I spent the whole week with Professor Park in New York, helping him to hold a booth on Sujuk acupuncture in New York during a acupuncture international conference. And every evening, Professor Park and I, we would have these conversations. I loved them. I loved those conversations. Dear friends, so this topic was so important to me to share with you because it's very peculiar, you know? Like Professor Park, back then in New York, he asked me, what do you think that word was? The Big Bang that brought up all of this light that our souls are made of. And if in the beginning, like there is a point, you know, there is nothing, and then there is tiny point. That point might be increasing, like, you know, like spontaneously and really huge at the same time. And through that one tiny point, all the Big Bang comes. And there was a word that brought it about. And he asked me, what do you think the word was? I don't think I could answer that question. But he said, if we are made in the image of God, then I believe that before the word there was a vibration. And the vibration was with the lips not parsed, you know, with the lips still closed. The vibration was And then he said, the lips slowly parsed and made the first sound, and that was ma, ma. You know, the sound ah in Sanskrit is the first vowel of the whole alphabet, and it's called Anuttara Bhairava. It's kind of like the sound showing that very original consciousness opening up and coming to being. You know, I entertained that idea that Professor Park shared with me. The very first word being ma. You know, that the same word as in ma, the, ma, me, mats in Russian, mutsi, maybe in German. A lot of languages have ma. Also in the English word matter. Actually, it's the same word that actually goes into the measure. In Turkmen language, there is word mata, and mata is like fabric. You could take it to the fabric of creation. So, you know, meditating, I did quite a bit of thinking about it. Like, because you see, the Russian word mать, for example, ma and t with the soft sound, мягкий знак they call it, mать, If you change those syllables, you get tma, tma. And tma actually means darkness. And that gave me this idea, because I understand God, like in Guru Nanak and Alan Watts' description of it. God is this and that, and also beyond and beyond. You can never name all the qualities of God. In fact, Guru Nanak says, if someone says he knows God, he's a fool, completely fool. Fool, So, well, okay. In the tarot cards, the zero is fool, but that's kind of like the other place of fool, because that's, FOOL, but it's also FULL, because that zero has a potential of absolutely everything. Well, in that case, we know that one of the qualities of God is to watch as the play develops. Like if you accept it as the attitude of life, that you have to learn to play, you actually get the best quality of life, right? So, thinking about mother, and then changing it into tsma, darkness. It gave me some ideas about how this Big Bang happened. With my mind, I could imagine infinity. In terms of, to any number, you can add 1, and that goes to infinity. And I can imagine that infinity also includes this notion of nothingness. When there was nothing. And inside that nothing, there was God as well. But he was in no way manifested, because he was enjoying being nothing. And he was enjoying observing nothing from nothing. Point. And then when a little something moved, like that villi in the small intestine, feeling, sensing something inside the nothing, there was a tiny movement. That was kind of like a tiny movement of the consciousness of God toward understanding or deciding that this is enough of nothing. Then let's make something happen. And as soon as that little notion of let's make something happen happened, the mother energy started also stirring within that consciousness of God, and right away started organizing the space for that nothing to become something and pour itself into. And the sand watch, it's kind of like also in the shape of 8, yeah? Sand here, you push it like this, and it like measures slowly measures time. Then you turn around and you can start all over again. Actually, one of the biggest spiritual news about infinity, that our soul is just like God. It never been born and it never dies. Well, let's call it the topic for another conversation. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for visiting Blue Swan Studio and the Rainbow Medicine. And until we see each other again, with all of my love. peace on earth. P.S. to this video, that God's consciousness that opened a tiny hole and just like boom came, corresponds to the masculine sexual organ. And that space that started opening up and prepared for that consciousness to receive is the feminine sexual organ. Just a promise of things to come. See you guys.